All right, hello, and welcome to this beautiful Wednesday. I am so thrilled that you've joined me here today to learn more about this adventure that we call parenting. Today, we're learning all about unleashing your child's genius. Before we get started today, I do want to ask that you shut off your distractions. I know if you're like most of us, we have our notifications on our phone, our Facebook notifications on our computer. So my request for you today, so that we can get the most out of our time, would be for you just to shut off your phone or put it on airplane mode and exit out of your Facebook tab if you're watching this on the internet today. All right. Do you remember this day? Think back to the moment you saw this and you found out you were going to be a parent. For me, the first time that I saw this was about 13 years ago. And when I saw this, it was a mixed emotions from anywhere ranging from super excited to, oh my goodness, am I ready to do this? I'm just not sure. What I bet you don't think about though, or don't remember at all about the situation, is that you maybe thought, gosh, my child is not going to reach their full potential. That probably never crossed your mind. Well, I'm here today to let you know that we're going to be talking about learning a lot. And really, the reality is that there is no such thing as normal learning. Yes, there may be standards or curves or some sort of guidelines that may help us as parents to understand if our child is meeting certain expectations. However, it's interesting that each of us has a unique fingerprint, but when it comes to learning, we all kind of get boxed in together, and that's an interesting concept to me. But I'm here to tell you today that there's really no such thing as normal learning. Each of us is very unique, and each of us learns in our own very unique way, and we'll talk about all those different ways we can learn today. During your time with me here today, here's what you're going to learn. You're going to learn to help your child be more successful in school and in life. You'll discover the very hidden mismatch between teaching, testing, and your child, and you'll learn ways to unleash your child's unique genius. You may be wondering, if you're not familiar with me, who I am and why I'm here with you today. Well, my name is Young Pratt, and here's a picture of my beautiful family. It's not a super recent photo, but you get the point here. And here's a little bit about me. Now, if you take a look at this page, there's a lot of things that I've done or been a part of and things I continue to support throughout my life. Up on the top left, you'll see that I am a proud graduate of the University of Nevada, Reno. When I was there during my time, I received my Bachelor of Science in Health Education. Right across the center, you'll see Up with People. And after graduating from UNR, I was accepted into this international education organization where we got to travel around North America and Europe and spread the message of cultural diversity, cultural understanding through music and dance. And then over on the right-hand side, you'll see University of Wyoming. And I received my Master of Science degree in kinesiology and health. And at University of Wyoming is where I learned about the things I'm going to be sharing with you today. It wasn't until, I was in my mid-20s to late 20s that I discovered sort of this secret sauce, if you will. Right down in the middle left, we have the Raising Smart Kids podcast. And this podcast is going to be relaunching in the next few weeks as soon as it gets approved by iTunes again. So this podcast is weekly, and it's all about helping you as parents raise smarter kids through the arts. I'll be doing some solo shows talking about tips and tricks you can use to incorporate the arts into your already busy schedule and help you to understand why the arts are so critical to your child's growth and development. I'll also be interviewing the top educators, artists, and entrepreneurs in the world these days that are going to share their insight on the arts and how they're using the arts to make a big impact in their local communities and globally. I cannot wait for you to hear some of these interviews because I'm just blown away with what my guests have shared with me there. Right in the center, we have artsmartparenting.com, and this is the house for all of the podcast information and the video content we're creating for that show. Over on the right center is Academy of the Arts, and I've been the director of the Academy now for 15 years. And back in 2001, when I first started, we started with very humble beginnings as a simple dance studio and have since expanded to offer many of the performing arts as well as martial arts for all of our students. Across the bottom, you'll see some other organizations to which I belong and full-heartedly believe in, such as More Than Just Great Dancing, which is a national affiliate organization to which I belong that really spreads the message about dance and the arts being more than just about skill development. But through the arts is really where kids are developing great character, they're learning about serving their communities, and they're really learning that they are more than just the title of dancer or karate kid, but really their contribution to the world is very significant. In the bottom center, we have the National Dance Education Organization. It is an organization for dance educators nationwide where we come together and share best practices about dance education. And it's an organization at which I've presented some of my research findings as well. And lastly, the Downtown Business Association here in my local town of Elko, Nevada. And it's an organization that really is put together to promote businesses that are located right in the heart of downtown, and that's where I am. All right, here's my promise for you today. We're going to talk about the 8 learning archetypes. Remember earlier I said that there's no normal learning, and here's where we're going to dive more into the 8 different types of learning. We're going to learn to identify those archetypes in your kids. You'll learn then how to take this information into your child's classrooms to have discussions with teachers and administrators about best practices for your child and your child's needs as far as education is concerned. And at the very end of today's live call, I'll share with you a way that you and I can continue the discussion after we've ended our time together today. All right, so what if I told you that there really is a blueprint to learning success? And again, this goes back to there is no set path for learning. However, I'm going to give you a foundation from which you can learn to understand how your child learns, what they need in their learning environments, and how you can help them propel that learning. So again, there are 8 different learning styles or archetypes. And this whole theory, the theory of multiple intelligences, is based on Howard Gardner's theory that he developed while at Harvard. And it talks about how each of us has a unique way of learning. We all have these 8 different learning mechanisms within inside of us. However, the way that each of them manifests is different in each of us. And we're going to talk about these 8 right now. And as we do, I want you just to take a few moments, and when I describe how these learning styles are different, I want you to think about your child, or if you have more than one child, your children, and see if anything that I say today about these learning archetypes resonates about your child. All right, the first type of learning archetype we're going to be discussing today is visual spatial. And I put this little cartoon here to illustrate, because it really talks about what visual spatial learning is. And you see this little child in the bottom building and painting, and his parents really think that he might be a visual spatial learner. And really anyone who learns visually or spatially thinks in terms of their physical space, such as architects and sailors, and they're very aware of their environments. Visual spatial learners may like to draw or do jigsaw puzzles, read maps, or daydream. They may also enjoy designing a multitude of different things. And if you have a visual spatial learner in your house, here's a couple of things you can do to help them on this learning journey. When they're working on homework, or when you know they're doing something in school and want to really help them solidify that information, you can help them create models, create charts or graphics, or use the TV or multimedia presentations to help them really grasp the concept at hand. Now, I wanted to make sure that I gave you examples of people from our history that fit into the mold of this type of learner. So up in the left top, we have, actually this whole slide is about Frank Lloyd Wright, the famous architect. And as you can see in the bottom right, he was all about transforming spaces and about changing something visually and still making it very appealing. Here's another example of a famous visual spatial learner, and that's Pablo Picasso. And his medium, of course, was painting. And so again, thinking about your child or children and answering the question, do they like to draw, paint, design, build? And if so, you may have a visual spatial learner in your household. The second type of learning archetype we'll discuss today is bodily kinesthetic. And these pictures of kids playing are prime examples of what bodily kinesthetic learning is all about. These are the kids who are great at sports. They like to move. Maybe you've been told your child is not able to sit still in the classroom. And if that's the case, you may have a bodily kinesthetic learner on your hands. And these kiddos learn by moving. If they're not moving, they're not learning. They're not making the proper connections they need to make for themselves in their brains. They like to be very hands-on and touch things and manipulate them. And for them to understand something, they actually have to do it. If you happen to have a bodily kinesthetic learner on your hands, physical activity is the best thing you can do for them. For instance, if your child is having some difficulty sitting, doing their homework at home, you may want to stand them up and have them walk around the room, or spin in circles, or bounce on a physio ball just to get their body moving, because that's what they need to make those important connections. And anything you can provide to them that is a hands-on learning experience is going to be great at getting them to grasp any concept. And role-playing, acting things out, getting their bodies to be part of the learning process is super important here. All right, so I think everyone probably knows who this man is right here in the center, the great Michael Jordan, the basketball player. He definitely was a learner that needed movement to help him. Another famous kinesthetic learner we have is the martial artist, Bruce Lee. And I want to share a little story today. This is my friend Tara, and she happens to be a Beachbody coach, so she's showing off her post-workout photo here. About a year ago, Tara came to me and was devastated. Her daughter here, was being told that she might get held back in kindergarten because she just wasn't learning properly, and she really wasn't progressing as the teacher thought she would or should in that case. So we had a very lengthy discussion or two about how her daughter learns the best, and I happened to have her in a couple of my classes, and so through some observation, I was able to discern that her daughter was very much a kinesthetic learner. And she really needed to be moving her body to learn. So I gave her a couple of strategies, such as letting her daughter, do cartwheels or spin around the house when they're practicing spelling words or math facts. And here's what Tara has said about the experience. School and homework are different now because I realize she isn't the type of person that can hold still when doing homework, reading, practicing spelling words, etc. I used to make her hold still and she wasn't able to concentrate. I now let her do cartwheels, spin in circles, or even standing up helps. If you're in a similar situation, please just let go of the control part and know that it's okay if your kid has to move around in order to learn. It doesn't make them weird or dumb or slow or behind. This is just their personality, their uniqueness. Let them embrace it. That way, they don't grow up feeling ashamed of or be embarrassed by it. They will own it and have the confidence. And what a beautiful sentiment that really wraps up everything we're going to talk about today. Each of your children is unique, and the ways they learn and the things they need to help them learn are unique. Each of us is different, and we really want them to embrace that difference. And we as parents need to find ways to help bolster that learning and help propel it in the positive direction. The third type of intelligence we're going to talk about is musical intelligence. And this is a prime example of a child who's very musical. Kids who are musical tend to love music. They also are very sensitive to the sounds and rhythms in their environment. And whether that's indoors or outdoors, they may notice sounds that the rest of us don't. If you have a musical learner in your house, here's a couple of things you can do to help propel the learning for them. The first one is lessons by lyrics, which leads into singing number 2. If they're needing to have some help remembering the presidents of the US or the Gettysburg Address or any sort of thing where they have to, to memorize it, putting those words into a song and having them sing that out loud will go a long way in helping them to remember. My oldest daughter, when she was in kindergarten, her teacher was saying that she didn't understand her address or didn't know what it was and wasn't able to tell her. So that very night, we went home and picked a little tune and we kept singing our address to her that night, which she thought was great at the age of 5. And then she went to school the next day and sang it for her teacher. So certainly anything you can do that has to do with creating rhythms or sounds or humming or teaching them through singing is going to really go a long way in helping these kids propel themselves. My youngest daughter, when she was in 2nd grade, her teacher had said, well, she's disrupting the class because she's humming when she's working. And since this little girl has come into the world, she's always been humming, no matter what she's doing, whether she's playing outside or drawing a picture or doing homework. She's typically humming to herself, and there's no particular tune that she's humming, but for her, connecting the music with her learning has really helped her to better understand the subject at hand. And Beethoven, the famous composer, is certainly a famous musical learner who developed and created numerous pieces of artwork during his lifetime. And Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, certainly was a musical learner, and he helped teach the world to sing, if you will, through his music. All right, type 4 of the learning archetypes, interpersonal. And you can see by this picture right here that these kids are surrounded by lots of other peers. And that's really the true nature of interpersonal learners. They are really the social butterflies in any situation. They love to interact with others, and often they're leaders because they like being able to be in a group of people. If you have a learner who needs to have interaction with others to make the process go more smoothly, here's a couple of things you can do with them. You can have them call up their friends via phone or via different messaging systems like Skype or Zoom or even Google Hangouts like this, and have them discuss with their friends their homework. And they'll likely be more productive if they do so. You can have group activities at your house and invite some friends over and have them put on a debate or have them do something to interact together to make that learning process go much more smoothly. And attending seminars is a great way for interpersonal learners to be in their element as well. They're not only surrounded by lots of people, but the opportunity to discuss and to collaborate with others is really key to how these kiddos need to learn. All right, and Abraham Lincoln was very much an interpersonal learner. He was a great leader and had a way of bringing people together for a common good. And a more relevant or timely person that is great at interpersonal learning would be Oprah Winfrey. She engages others in conversations and dialogues, and that's really the heart of interpersonal learners, connecting with others and learning. The fifth type of learning we're going to discuss is intrapersonal. And I have this statue of the thinker here because it really epitomizes what an intrapersonal learner is. So they're pretty much the opposite of interpersonal. These kids enjoy time alone. They're often very strong-willed, confident, and opinionated. And I'm not one for using cliches to explain things, but in this case, the cliche that he or she dances to the beat of their own drum is very much the case with intrapersonal learners. If you have a child who likes to learn independently, here's a couple things you can do with them at home. If there's a topic at school such as polygons, or maybe it's a science fair project, having them study those things independently with the help of the internet or by going to the library is really going to go a long way in helping them to understand the subject even more deeply. Interpersonal learners may also like to journal and really keep track of what they've done in their day, maybe helping them to think of new ideas they want to explore later on. These kids usually spend a lot of time in introspection, and I believe that this is somewhat of a dying art with our instant gratification society and the fact that we can quickly, at a moment's notice, turn on our phones or head to Facebook or head out to the world via the internet to find any question. I feel like most of us don't take the time that we need in our days to be reflective and to turn inwardly, to think about whether or not we've achieved our goals, what's the next step in our life, and really make a plan for creating a life that we love. And interpersonal kids may also enjoy private time. Having a space all to themselves, such as their bedroom or a little play area, really will help also when it comes time to do their schoolwork. Some examples of some famous interpersonal learners are Gandhi. He was a man who was very introspective and reflective, and that really spoke to us as a society on what his beliefs truly were. And Anne Frank was very much an interpersonal learner. I don't know how many of you have had the privilege of reading her diary, the Diary of Anne Frank, but it recounts her days in Nazi Germany and the trials and tribulations that her family went through. Number 6, linguistic intelligence. And these kids are all about words. They often love to read or create stories and poems, and they like to speak. So their love language, if you will, or their learning language is through words. If you have a linguistic learner in your home, reading together will be a really fun activity for you, not only to create memories, create stronger bonds, but really show your child that you appreciate his or her learning style and that you value the way that they learn. If you have a budding linguistic learner, seeing and saying words together would be a fun little game you could do. And this last one is my favorite way to help your linguistic learner. If there's, again, a school project where they need to memorize something, or perhaps they're too young to write yet, but they have very, very creative imaginations and are always telling you stories, pull out your smartphone. Every phone these days has some sort of speech recognition or dictation app on it, or you can get one for free in the iTunes store, where you could literally have them recite their story, have them recite whatever it is they're trying to memorize, speaking it onto the device, and then playing it back for them. Not only will this, again, demonstrate that you really care for their creativity and appreciate what they're dreaming up, but if they're needing to remember things, listening to their own words will really help them to get to that next step. All right, a couple of famous linguistic learners. Of course, we have the late, great William Shakespeare and Emily Dickinson. All right, number 7, logical mathematical. And this illustration that I've shared on this slide is definitely the whole point of logical mathematical. They see things in numbers and categories and concepts. And so, they use reasoning skills. They like to explore patterns and relationships, and they like to think conceptually. If you have a learner that leans towards the logical mathematical, you could help them propel their learning by offering to do experiments or challenging them to do experiments. Maybe you introduce a logic game to them to help them figure out the pattern and really break that down. Or help them to investigate something. They're very curious about relationships and looking at a big picture and distilling it down into little steps. So helping them do that will go a long way. All right, here's probably the most famous logical mathematical learner I could think of, and of course it's Albert Einstein. And I would also classify the late great Steve Jobs as a logical mathematical learner. All right, naturalistic intelligence. These are the kiddos who really gravitate towards things like plants and bugs and animals that are outdoors. They like to categorize and catalog their information, whether that be schoolwork or maybe they have a collection of rocks or other things, but they like to categorize and classify those things, and they could be classified as very outdoorsy. And if you have a naturalistic learner, here's a couple of tools you can use to help them learn better. You can have them go on some nature discoveries. I put this picture of this landscape design on here because this is somebody whose job it is to be outdoors and create and transform and organize the outdoor space to make it even more beautiful. You could, again, let them organize their treasures, get them little boxes with dividers to help them put their stuff differently depending on the day. Perhaps they're gonna arrange it by color. Maybe they want to arrange it by size. So they may enjoy being able to even categorize their schoolwork, maybe taking spelling words and categorizing it by the endings or the prefixes will help them to appreciate their learning a little more. And for these kiddos, if you can create an outdoor space for them to be, whether it's a picnic table or just a coffee table and chairs outside, letting them do their schoolwork outside in a space where they feel the most comfortable will also really help to propel their learning. And of course, the naturalist Steve Irwin is here, very much a learner who loved the outdoors, as well as Jane Goodall. All right, so at this moment, I want you to take a few moments here and think about your child or children. And we just discussed 8 different types of learning. I just want you to make a little note, whether on paper or mentally, and think about maybe 1 or 2 of those learning styles that you know for sure describes your child. I'm gonna grab a drink while you do that. All right, do you have that all recorded? Now we're gonna flip the coin. I want you to think about yourself. Think about yourself when you were younger in a school situation or even today on the ways that you personally like to learn. I can tell you that for me, my preferential learning style is bodily kinesthetic. For me to understand a concept or really get a grasp on what's going on, I really need to get in there and do it. Whether that's actually moving my body when I'm choreographing, or if I need to learn a new process or system, I actually have to do it several times to have it make sense. And also, I would say that I'm very much a linguistic learner. So I love words and I love speaking to you and I love recording words in blog posts and in our website and those sort of mediums. And soon to be released, my first book. Now, when you think about your child's learning styles and yours, are they the same? Are they different? Or do you have some overlap here? I think one of the biggest frustrations as a parent is when you don't understand learning styles and you're trying to help your child based on how you like to learn, it may or may not be a good match for them. So for instance, when we were homeschooling our 2 girls, I quickly discovered that my oldest learner is very much the social butterfly. She's an interpersonal learner. She needs to have noise around her. She needs to have a little bit of chaos in order for her brain to make those connections. Where myself and my youngest daughter really needed to have space that was quiet so we could be very intrapersonal, going inwardly and focusing. So in this situation, we ended up sending our oldest daughter back to school because she really needed to be in a classroom setting with other people for her to be successful. This leads us really right into the question about how do schools teach? And when you signed up for this webinar, one of the points I said we were going to discuss is the often hidden mismatch between teaching, testing, and your child. And like I said in the very beginning when I talked about my background, the learning styles that I shared with you today, I didn't learn about until I was in graduate school. And I went through life as a child and I would do really, really well in school. But when it came to doing things like standardized testing, I would do really poorly. And I would be embarrassed to share with my friends what I had gotten because I didn't understand that what the results really meant. And I think parents like you are in the same situation where, your child may just do average on a standardized test, or maybe they do below average, and all of a sudden teachers are saying your child needs to be remediated, or they need tutoring, or they need extra special attention on their weaknesses, right? When I learned about the theory of multiple intelligences, it was such an eye-opening day because it was at that moment that I realized that there was nothing wrong with me or how I learned. I felt badly about myself for years because I thought there was something wrong with my brain, or there had to be some reason that was my fault that I didn't do well on these tests. But as you've learned now, if your child has a different learning style than what's being presented in school, that may present some problems. So let's talk about this. Here's my thought, that learning really doesn't have to be that hard. I think that schools sometimes make it out to be really difficult. And again, schools tend to focus on your child's weaknesses, which I think is a tragic mistake. Everyone has weaknesses, but better than that, we all have strengths. Why not build up those strengths so they're so tremendous that it doesn't matter if we have a weakness? And there is a much better way to learn. So going back to how schools teach and test, we've learned that there are 8 different styles of learning. But schools teach and test only to 2 of those. And those 2 are logical mathematical and linguistic. So if those 2 are not amongst your child's top 2 learning styles, they could definitely be in for some struggles when it comes to standardized testing or even things that happen in the classroom. But a way to help them overcome those deficits, as the school may call them, or a way to, as I like to call them, building up their strengths, here's the way that we do that. We incorporate the arts into our child's lives. Now, with budget cuts left and right, we all know the first programs to be cut are the arts as well as physical education, which is a devastating reality since the arts is the only medium that fosters development of all 8 intelligences. So said in a different way, the arts is the only medium that no matter which of those 8 learning archetypes your child gravitates towards, there's an arts medium that can help them strengthen that particular intelligence, which by strengthening that, we're bolstering their confidence, which helps them do better in school overall. And the second point here is the arts certainly are a dwindling commodity. And this is one of the many reasons why I opened up the Academy of the Arts, is that there needed to be a place for kids to feel safe and loved, and a place where they could be creative and really foster the development of their own unique genius, or as we call them at the Academy, their superpowers. Each of us is born with these amazing superpowers, and being able to find the right mentor or the right school to help us unleash those is really a critical step in life. I want to talk a little bit about the importance of the arts for your child. And I want to share some stats with you. Young people who participate in the arts are 4 times more likely to be recognized for academic achievement, 3 times more likely to be elected to class office, 4 times more likely to participate in math and science fairs. They're 3 times more likely to win awards for school attendance and 4 times more likely to win awards for writing. So far, the stats are really in favor of the arts, and if these are the odds of my child doing better in school, you can bet that I'm all in with the arts. For young dancers and artists compared to their non-arts peers, they're likely to attend arts classes 3 times as often, participate in youth groups 4 times more, read for pleasure twice as often, and perform community service 4 times as much. So if you're ready to unleash your child's unique genius, you can take the information you learned from today's time together and take the information to your child's teacher. Have a discussion about what your child needs to learn. Perhaps your child is very kinesthetic in their learning, and this particular teacher really wants them to sit still and focus and be quiet the entire day. If that's the case, you may need to propose that you bring in an exercise ball for them to sit on so they can just bounce and create a little movement for themselves to connect those, to make those connections in their brain to propel their learning. Perhaps they're very much a visual learner. Maybe they need to build a project for everything they're learning. Maybe a diorama or an architectural engineering sort of project is what they need to help them propel that particular skill. And once you've opened up the dialogue with your teachers, if you're not getting a lot of feedback there, or it's not the feedback you were hoping for, you may need to take this discussion even further to the administration, because you as a parent are the advocate for your child in the school system. So we need to make sure as parents that our kids are getting what they need in school and not stand by and let schools tell us that our child has these weaknesses. But we really need schools to help our kids discover and understand that they have these gifts and these strengths, and it's their job or our job to help make sure our teachers recognize that and are using those skills in the classroom to help our child propel and accelerate their learning. Well, we're just wrapping up the end of our time together today, but before we go, I just wanted to invite you to join me to continue this discussion. I created a private Facebook page over on Facebook, and I would love to continue the discussion there. And you can find us at facebook.com/groups/ArtSmartParenting. And I'd love for you to join this group and ask your questions and continue this dialogue to see how I can help you help your child and raise a child who is smarter through the arts. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and put those in the question queue right now. I'm just going to pop out real quick so I can take a look. All right, I am not seeing any questions at the moment. So again, I want to thank you for attending. Let me share this again. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to learn a couple of tips and tricks you can use to help propel your child's learning, not only when they're home with you, but more importantly when they're at school. Again, learning how your child learns best is the first step in the process to helping them propel their enjoyment of school and in life and to help them achieve more. The next step after understanding that is finding some arts classes that can really help you as a parent to unleash your child's unique genius. Again, thank you for being here with me today. I commend you for wanting to learn more skills as a parent to help your child be more successful. Again, you can find me over on Facebook in the group Art Smart Parenting. And until next time, my friends, I wish you a wonderful Wednesday and best of luck on unleashing your child's unique genius. Super excited to, oh my goodness, am I ready to do this? I'm just not sure. What I bet you don't think about though, or don't. Hello. How's it going? Good. What's going on? Oh, okay. Okay. Does he need a DVD player to watch movies or something? We can send some too. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Huh? I'm wrapping up some stuff. What do you need? What time? It's 11. Yeah, do you want to have lunch out here or do you want to have lunch in town or what do you think? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we can go somewhere. That's fine. Okay. Okay, we'll see you in a bit. Okay, thanks. Okay, bye.